Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Who Cares Anyway podcast. We are live. It is Friday night. And, you know, it's a pretty exciting week for us geeks out there in the nerd world, I'd say. Because a little movie dropped this week. A little movie that goes by the name of Avengers Endgame. And yes, guys, we will be talking about it, non-spoilers. So to everybody in the chat, and I will say this multiple times throughout the show, if I see any spoilers in the chat, banhammer for a week, because in a week we're going to talk spoilers. But until then, please, guys, no spoilers. Thank you. So I'm your host, Chris Dohmen, and with me tonight I've got on the panel Kees and Irina. Hello, you two. How are you doing this lovely Friday evening?
Hello, we are here. We are very tired because it's 2:30 a.m. and this show is going to go for about 2 hours, so it's going to be very late when we go to bed. But it's worth it because we want to talk about the MCU, about Endgame, of course. No spoilers. I'm excited to be here. Excited for the show.
Absolutely. Jonathan Peck, I already see you in the chat. How you doing, man? Always very happy to see you. But, Kees, here's the funny thing. I don't think it's just us here on the show tonight. In fact, I'm pretty sure we have a guest. A good friend of the channel. We already had his co-host of the show that he's known for, Notorious by Chance, but we had to get the second half to talk about what's going on here tonight. Russell Notorious Howell. Dude, welcome to the show, man. Glad to have you here, and how you doing tonight?
Glad to be here, man. It was one of those things I really wanted to get on sometime, and when you guys said you had an opening in a couple weeks, I had to jump all over it. I didn't realize it actually coincided with Endgame. But yeah, I'm doing great. Really looking forward to talking all things Marvel and just having a good time talking about nerding out.
Absolutely. And, you know, to start this off, before we actually get into the movie news and whatnot, now, Kees, you and I didn't really have the best week over at Multiplex, unfortunately. Is that fair to say? We did our best with what was given to us. That's all that.
Drink. That match was just goddamn awful. I don't want to ever mention it ever again.
Fair enough.
Especially for me.
Fair enough. Brian Nussbaum, I see you in the chat, man. Always glad to see you. How you doing this evening? Refresh me, Kees. You do have a number one contender match in fandom coming up, right?
No, it's going to be a little different. It'll be to determine the number one contender of the upcoming summer tournament for fandom. And it's going to be between Dominic Rizzi and myself. I have beaten him once with her in teams, and I've TKO'd his ass very hard in a number one contender match already. So, yeah, I'm not worried.
Yeah, speaking of TKOs, I kind of wish Nico was here just so I could, very politely rub it in his face that Adonis, listen, you actually do know your stuff. You took down Brian Michaels, for God's sakes. That's pretty.
Okay,
pretty good.
Brian has said that he's not the best at fandom,
and that's fair. But yeah, I kind of wiped the floor with the poor kid.
Well done, sir.
Thank you. So yes, I'll be going into the Summer Series tournament myself with a 2-0 record, and nice. one knockout. Yay! Refresh me, Russell, because you do compete over in Multiplex. Are you in the fandom division? Refresh me.
I am not. I'm actually just in the team tournament.
Okay.
My new teammate Matt McLellan and I, Notorious Chaos. I had to keep the Notorious.
Of course you did.
Yeah, we just beat Dominic Rizzi and who's part of Jay Burns, I think. Yes. And we are actually recording tomorrow. We're going to be playing Team 80, so it should be a barn burner, hopefully. So really looking forward to that.
Good luck.
Yeah, I know. We got an uphill battle. And then I believe coming up, we have another match against a rematch against Mike Hanley and Rosario.
Blockbuster.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have an uphill battle lately. I just think we got off to a bad footing because, when Chance was obviously going to the Schmodown, I need another partner. And that's when they said, Matt McLellan was available. And we already inherited a 3-1 record, when Matt came on. So I had, no team chemistry with him whatsoever. So our first match was literally a number one contender match. I wish we would have just scrapped our records and just went from the bottom and started, start on the bottom and work our way up together. But we had the records, just had some bad luck. Animated really killed us against, who the hell did it kill us against? I think we played Henry and Jake.
Oh, Jake, other guys.
And I think Animated killed us. We actually lucked out. We had Animated the last game against Jay Burns and Dominic Rizzi. We actually did really good on it. So we're slowly building momentum and just really trying to make Notorious Chaos a team to be reckoned with here in the leagues. But yeah, I look forward to competing against everybody, man. I'm just humbled by the experience, and that's all you can do.
Absolutely. And speaking of the team that you'll be facing after Team 80's Blockbuster, I really just hope that in the team tournament, Kees and I can go up against Mike and Nazario, and
if it's a Phantom, they're done.
If it's Phantom,
now that Back to the Future is off, they have nothing. Sorry.
Yeah, Phantom is so nitpick specific that it's just not my forte. I mean, I commend all those guys and all you guys that do that because it's so plot specific and like different things that you have to completely like notice in films, and I don't really have that eye for that. Of course, I don't compete in it. I guess maybe when you compete in it, you're more likely to notice different things in films. But me, I just like general movie knowledge and general movie trivia, so I kind of just try to stay in that realm. But yeah, like Inner Geekdom and that fandom stuff, man. Hats off to you guys that do that, man, because that stuff is really so tough.
The geek films are the movies that I've been just watching for over and over for years on end. So yeah, that's why I know them.
Yeah.
And granted, while yes, sure, my true strength is obviously more general movie trivia, but I've seen enough of the fandom stuff that I like, and I myself am a fan of most of the fandom stuff, so I can hold my own. But obviously, in that department, Kees carries us usually in those matches.
Usually, hey, there's a reason I was in a title match.
This is true,
and I hold points record. Yay.
Absolutely. The cool guy, see you're in the chat. What's up?
Hello.
Right back at you, man. But who wants to dive into some movie news?
Nah.
I know. Yeah. We'll get to what you want to talk about in just a little bit here, Kees. But there is still some stuff that I wanted to hit on real fast. Starting with two actors that we'll definitely be talking about a little bit in about a half hour or so.
No,
not at all. But Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson, who are obviously both from Thor Ragnarok and now the just released Avengers Endgame, but also have Men in Black International. The second trailer has dropped this week, and I think I am starting to come around on this movie. Like I'm starting to actually kind of dig it. I'm starting to get the tone they're going for, and it feels like a nice continuation of the movies that we've already had, and not so much like let's just forget about the other three movies. No, they still exist, but this is just a spin-off in the same universe. Russell, were you getting a similar vibe of that, or were you a little disappointed by it?
No, similar vibe and similar, just to echo what you said. I was kind of skeptic about it when they were releasing it initially. I'm just like, we're rebooting all these franchises and properties. And I feel like the demand's really not there for another Men in Black film. Men in Black 3 was okay, but it failed to impress me. Unlike the first two that I really enjoyed. But yeah, Chris Hemsworth, man, I really like the direction we're going with this because Chris Hemsworth really shows the comedic side of him from Thor Ragnarok carried over there a little bit in Men in Black International. I like, and Tessa Thompson, man, is she having a great couple years or what, man? Just all of her selections that she's been in Creed, Thor Ragnarok, Annihilation. I mean, she's really up and coming actress. She's tremendous in anything she does. I'm curious to see these two play off one another, like in a comedic aspect of things, and kind of just echo what you said. I really like how they're not saying, hey, these movies from before with Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones never existed. We are paying homage to them, but we're going to go ahead and pick up, like how you said, just kind of go our own little direction, but you still, keep those in the universe. And I appreciate that. I'm looking forward to it, believe it or not. I think it's going to be one of those pleasantly surprising films of the summer. Who knows?
Absolutely. And, and we'll agree to disagree on the third one because overall I like it. There are a couple things I have a couple issues with, but for the most part, I really do like the third one. In case, Irina, you guys, did you guys get a chance to check that trailer out?
Yeah.
We
All right,
did. Yeah,
please.
and we actually recently rewatched the Men in Black movies. And yeah, we disagree with Russell. We agree with each other.
Nice.
First one is great. It's a classic. It's awesome. You can watch it at any point. The second one is trash. I really don't like the second movie. I'm like, what the hell were they even doing? I think the third one was very good. It has a few flaws, but I think it's very good, very fun. And I think that the Men in Black franchise, period, is a good franchise to just make movies in. It's fun. Just a couple of people in black suits killing aliens and living with aliens, and it's just fun. So um, I saw that.
Regarding the trailers.
Yeah. Now regarding the trailers, they're not the best put together trailers.
No.
They're really poorly edited. However, I can see past that because I'm like, okay, probably the people who are making these trailers are just trying to jam everything into these trailers to make to just sell people. And I'm like, I don't care about that, but I can at least see a coherent, good, fun movie in this that I'm like, you know what? I don't care how bad the trailers are edited. I want to see a good movie, and I think we'll get that because considering the cast, considering the people around it, this will probably be good. That's what I think. What do you think?
My concern from the trailers, like the first trailer was very weird. I was like, I don't like this. I'm not looking forward to the movie. The second one, they showed them basically every location possible.
Yeah.
She was on the cliff. They were in the desert. They were in London. Then her when she was little. Everything they could have shown, they did. That's why I don't consider these are good trailers. And from what I saw, my concern with the movie that they overwhelm us with aliens and just the universe that they want to build upon. Like we already have a Men in Black universe, and maybe they want to jam pack more stuff. Maybe it's just a trailer. Maybe the movies are not like that. So I just hope. No, I know that Tessa and Chris are gonna be awesome together. I think that's the biggest thing I'm looking forward to in this one. I think it's gonna be good. It's just it might be a little messy.
And you know what? You actually bring up a fair point because like lately the trend has tried to be not really show that much of the movie per se, but just show a lot of like little detailed moments in trailers for like a lot of these big summer blockbusters. But it seems like for this one they kind of went back to just sort of showing the movie, showing the world, and I feel like in 2 minutes that's just not necessarily the best way to go about it.
No.
But I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
No, I agree. I agree completely. You don't want to give away the whole entire movie in the 2-minute trailer. I mean, that takes away the whole aesthetic of going to the movie to go see it. You know, I kind of like the approach that Godzilla King of Monsters did or is doing with their trailers. You don't really see a whole lot of the monsters and stuff like that. You see them here and there, but it's not like a long focus shot on them, which is going to lead.
I think that the trailers for the Godzilla movie have shown more Godzilla than the first movie.
Well, but I like that aspect because you don't see a whole lot of Mothra, don't see a whole lot of Rodan, don't see a whole lot of King Ghidorah. So I like that because that leads to that anticipation when you go see the movie, that you're kind of curious to see these monsters on screen. I think that way of playing it, I think, is better as opposed to Men in Black just throwing it all out there at you in 2 minutes, and kind of like almost like how Michael Bay does with Transformers films.
Oh God. Which somehow, like, I'll say as much as I don't like his Transformers movies, I will say those trailers for the first 3 movies were actually pretty good. Good trailers.
Oh yeah,
shit movies. But to get away from some of that
shit
stuff.
Movies.
Yeah, exactly. And to talk about it, and just for a quick moment, this is just something that I wanted to get off my chest because one of my favorite movies of the '90s is Boys in the Hood, directed by John Singleton. Honestly, this movie really captures what living in Compton was like in the late 80s, early 90s, that sort of, NWA era of America. And unfortunately, he currently is in the hospital in a coma as a result of a stroke he had on Sunday. And, I just wanted to give a quick, please get well soon, sir. because you still have so much left in your career that you can do. There's so much more you have left to say, I feel. So yeah, just please get well soon, because that just sucks.
Especially for how old he is too. He's only 51.
Yeah.
It's a shame, because I actually just piggyback off what you were saying. Boys in the Hood, I actually just first watched this year for the first time. I had never seen it. Chance and I were watching it for Black History Month. We wanted to do a Black History special on our podcast, so we watched Boys in the Hood and Menace to Society. But Singleton really captures what it was like growing up, how you said, in Compton in the 80s and 90s, and just, I mean, what a performance from Lawrence Fishburne. That scene where he's talking, I think you know what I'm talking about, that one scene that he's talking about there with the billboard and stuff like that. Just it's a truly inspiring film, and it really, really does help open your eyes to the, how fortunate we are, and just how, back in the 80s and 90s, how tragic it was, how there really wasn't an outlet for people. There wasn't, hopes of a future or anything like that. And this Singleton did a beautiful job painting the picture. And I kind of just how you said, man, I really hope everything goes well with John Singleton. Hopefully he, comes out of the coma that he's in, can recover and get behind the camera again and make some more work. He's 51. We have obviously, Clint Eastwood still doing it in his mid 80s. He has so much more left in the tank. And I think, I really hope that everything goes well with John Singleton.
Yeah, I mean, shit. I very vividly remember this, where I was watching a mini documentary about how a lot of like Hollywood directors were inspired by Star Wars. I was on like the special edit on the DVD box set for the original trilogy, and John Singleton actually talked a lot about how that first movie was the movie that inspired him to pick up the camera and start shooting. And it's like, and it's what drew me to his work. I mean, shit, even his film Four Brothers, which at times it's a little bit corny, but I still think it's a very well made film.
Can I say that he directed the Fast and Furious movie? It's the second one, Too Fast, Too Furious. I think it's a pretty good movie.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
I like it a lot. So.
And another guilty pleasure, I love Set It Off. I think that's a great bank heist robbery movie. I love that film. And I know he was director of that too. So yeah, he has a lot left in the tank, and hopefully, like I said, I really hope he can pull out of it and get back behind the camera soon in the future, because, these filmmakers are important. These guys have laid groundwork for us fans and just, movie fans in general. Very important with, what they want to get out to the, to us on screen. And I think, here's hoping everything goes well.
Absolutely. And then, Kees, did you have any other thoughts you wanted to throw in there before we move on to the next story?
You guys said most. I just said my thing about Too Fast, Too Furious, because I know you don't like that movie. I do. And I think it's a well-made movie, well-directed. I know him from that.
Yes.
Fair enough. All right. Well, then let's move on to something I know you're excited about, Kees.
Yes!
Bond 25. So now we have even more cast announced, and it's been known for a little bit that
You can't see it well.
you can kind of see it.
Kind
of. Fair enough. But so we got some more cast announced, including, obviously, now it's been officially confirmed that Rami Malek is playing the villain, but we also have some returning people, including Jeffrey Wright as Felix Leiter, Naomi Harris as Moneypenny. Yes. Ben Whishaw as Q, including a little Miss Ana de Armas. Yeah, I know you're excited about that, Kees. Talk to me.
Look, I tried to show the poster I have of Bond because I have a poster of essentially all the Bond posters in one poster, posterception, if you will. So I am a big James Bond fan. I've seen all the movies several times, and I love movies of every Bond, essentially. Like, every Bond did something else, and I've always just enjoyed the franchise as a whole. There are a couple of movies that I think are not that good, but I am very excited about this because I have loved Daniel Craig since his first movie. I think Casino Royale is great, and Daniel Craig as Bond in that movie is great. It's a different version of Bond that we haven't seen before, and I want to have him go out on a high note because I like Spectre a lot, but a lot of people didn't. It's a very divisive movie, it seems. So I'm like, let him end on a great movie. When you add Rami Malek, recent Oscar winner, great actor, period. When you add an Ana de Armas, who has been in my favorite movie of 2017, and you keep like I like Jeffrey Wright as Felix Leiter. I just think he didn't do that much yet because he was really only in Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace. Quantum of Solace just sucks, so let's forget about that. I think he was a decent Felix Leiter in Casino Royale, but we didn't see that much of him, so I would like to see more of that. Naomi Harris makes sense. Ralph Fiennes, of course, makes sense. Moneypenny M, you're gonna have those characters. Q, Ben Whishaw.
Léa Seydoux is coming back.
Léa Seydoux, yeah. Well, to be fair, Spectre ended with her still being with Bond. So, is she still gonna be the Bond girl throughout this movie, or will she be killed and will something happen? Maybe because Rami Malek does something to her. It's intriguing. I'm excited because I love Bond, and I think the cast is great.
Who's directing? I'm sorry.
Cary Fukunaga.
Difficult name.
No, what did he do? What did he do again?
Shit. Russell, do you remember off the top of your head?
Fukunaga, no. I'm gonna know. I'm gonna know to hear it.
I stumped you. I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's all right. I know he did Beast of No Nation.
That
was a big Oscar nominee.
Writer for it. Okay.
Oh, that's right. He also was the director for the first season of True Detective.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, he did Maniac. Oh dear Christ, how much I hated that TV show. Okay. Okay, about Bond, I'll take over if you're okay with that. I'm very, very excited. I think Rami as villain is going to be just delightful. I expect a very stone cold, just the killer, or not killer, but very calculating villain. I'm very excited about that. Ana de Armas is just delightful. So she's going to have an amazing presence. Like, if she's going to be a Bond girl, Daniel Craig's maybe a bit too old.
Too old, yeah. Yeah.
But honestly, I don't mind. I really like Craig's Bond. I'm so excited about Rami Malek. When you told me that Rami is confirmed, I'm like, yes, it's gonna be awesome. 125, please no Maniac. That TV show, oh my god, it killed me. I'm sorry, I'm done.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Bond 25. It's a great way to send Daniel Craig off. Every other Bond film is good. The even one seemed to suffer a little bit, just in my opinion. Quantum of Solace is awful.
Yeah.
Spectre was bearable. It was bearable, but I mean, again, it's no Skyfall or Casino Royale. Just Casino Royale, just the introduction of Daniel Craig into the Bond world. Really, just he was such a cold, badass Bond that we did not see. We did not see that with Pierce Brosnan. We see it more with Craig. And I just love the whole aesthetic of him. And I'm so glad that he signed on through all of these movies. Like, cause he was supposed to be out after a couple, even after Skyfall, because Spectre was never supposed to happen. And I'm really glad that he's getting a fifth one. I think that this movie is going to really send Daniel Craig off into the sunset, as he should, because I think he's one of the better Bonds. He's right behind Connery, in my opinion. I like what he brings to the table as Bond. I love that cold ruthlessness that he has as Bond, and I'm really hoping that Bond 25 really does seal the deal with him. And like I said, every other Bond I think is the one that shines. So I'm hoping the fifth Bond that he's in is the one that really sends him off.
Absolutely. Yeah, sorry guys. Sometimes you just gotta lay down a nice little bit of the old band hammer in the chat. But hey, that's all right. You do what you gotta do. But so we're gonna move on to I think there's just one more or two more stories. There was one that I'm not quite sure I want to necessarily get into, but I want to have a little mini rant about something. Ladies and gentlemen, grab your popcorn, grab your drinks, because I have a question. Why do we need a Britney Spears jukebox musical?
Because we want her to hit us one more time.
Yeah.
Because Hollywood wants to drive us crazy.
Hit me, baby, one more time.
Because they want to remind us that she's not a girl and she's not yet a woman. Oh wait, no, she's been a woman for 20 years now. Okay, what? Like, okay. There are certain artists, I understand why people want to make jukebox musicals of them, you know, like the Beatles or the Stones or even Prince, which I know that's happening, and for some fucking reason I can't understand why. But Britney fucking Spears, are you fucking kidding me? What? Like, who said this was a good idea? Why does anybody think that, like, oh, let's just take one of the biggest pop stars of the last 20 years and make a jukebox musical about her? No! Just, why? Why? Why do we have to keep making jukebox musicals a thing? Because they don't fucking work. Ever. Ah. I realize I'm probably a little bit off my rocker here. You know what? Here, Russell, talk me off the ledge, if you could. Please.
You know what? Honestly, I grew up in the heyday of pop music, so I always liked Britney Spears. But to me, kind of how you said, jukebox, musical, I mean, she's still around, and I her music's not. Yeah, it was transcendent in the whole pop genre. I get that, but I don't think we don't need a musical, about her. The plot, if you read the plot on the thing that you sent me, it sounds awful. It sounds really bad. It's a way to try to cash in some extra money just to throw her music in it. And to me, it's just like I'd rather you do it later on down the road when has more to her. Just discographies and stuff like that. She only has like 7 or 8 albums, like I'm saying.
Yeah.
But going down, you gotta wait a while. She's still around, and she's still she's in her 30s. Like, it's not like the Stones that have been around for 50 years touring together. It's not like it's Bruce Springsteen. I mean, it's Britney Spears. Like, to me, it's like I feel like it's way too soon to do something like that. And on top of it, if you're gonna do it right. You can do it, but do it right. Like the plot sounds absolutely awful. With like Queen, like Snow White and Cinderella and stuff like that. It sounds awful.
It sounds just terrible. It sounds honestly, it's like, oh, we're gonna make a jukebox musical about a book club.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Who the fuck cares? Like, honestly, okay. Now to be fair, if you wanted to do a Britney Spears biopic about her 2007 public breakdown, that would be interesting. That would actually be really fucking cool to see.
Yeah.
But what?
Just as long as you don't cast Britney Spears as the main role.
Well, yeah, because you had that interesting timeline with 07. That 07.
Remember her in goddamn How I Met Your Mother?
Like the 07 meltdown, man. She was on top of her, the pop world for almost 10 years. Had that awful meltdown in 07, shaved her head, went crazy. That would be really good to see what really transpired to cause that, and how she slowly kind of clawed her way back into the limelight again. You know what I mean? I mean, granted, she isn't where she used to be, but still, she's still relevant. Obviously, we're still talking about her, so she's still there. So it's still she's still relevant enough. I think, and the fact that she came out of that on top, even with the last couple CDs that she released, and she still has hits, I mean, really shows you she really did persevere through all that stuff. That would be more interesting to see, as opposed to just let's dress up as princesses and sing Britney Spears songs. I think that's kind of stupid, and it kind of does her a disjustice too, because she was vocal. She is instrumental in her own way. I know a lot of people take the pop genre as a joke, but I mean, honestly, it's still a snapshot in the late 90s, early 2000s. I mean, it's music. It's still there, because you still have, I mean, bands together, like even the Backstreet Boys and all these other bands are still together, and they're from that pop era. So I really like to think that they would not do this. Maybe this is just an idea. I really hope that I don't see the demand's not going to be there for this. Like, Britney Spears was big 15 years ago, not now. I don't think that. Yeah, this is a bad move.
It's a terrible, terrible fucking move. And we're gonna move on to our last story before we hop into our non-spoiler review. Now, I think it's safe to say that video game movies rarely ever work. If at all. If never, really. I mean, sure, they can be fun.
Tomb Raider.
Yeah, and I like Tomb Raider.
Tomb Raider.
I like the new Tomb Raider.
They can be fun, but they haven't ever really been critical successes. Outside of Wreck-It Ralph, but to be fair, that's an original story with an original video game. That's not based on anything.
Yeah.
Exactly. But this, as much crap as K.A.S.E. in the past have given Detective Pikachu, there might be some hope. First reactions have been coming in, and I haven't really seen one bad thing about it. Like, reactions so far have been overwhelmingly positive. So, is it possible that we might finally break the video game adaptation curse?
Okay, here's my first
question.
Our issue with this thing. Pokemon is a television show. I mean, video games were spawned off of it, but it was first and foremost a television show. So why the fuck do we call this a video game movie if it's based off a television show?
No, that's
the video game came first.
Pokemon?
Oh.
Yeah. First the video game came out, then the TV show, and then the original series of animated movies, none of which were critically acclaimed, obviously. And then now we're getting a live-action movie that's based on the video games, not so much the animated show.
Well, that's surprising. Didn't know that.
Yeah.
I still don't care. Move on.
Russell, what are your just quick thoughts then?
Me being like 35, this was out of my age demographic when I was growing up. So I never, and I told Chance when we were talking about it, I never watched Pokemon. And speaking as somebody who's completely like an outsider who knows nothing about any of it, I obviously know, Pikachu and stuff like that, but I couldn't tell you what, anything about them. Ryan Reynolds is obviously really transcended himself as a comedic actor. He's always had that. Obviously, Deadpool just really showcased that. So to see him in Detective Pikachu along with the kid from Jurassic World, I don't know. I think it'll be a fun time. Is this something that I think that's going to you're going to get these people that have played Pokemon that still do that, the catch the Pokemon on the phone and play all those games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because I remember there was a Game Boy where you had a red and a blue one. Pokemon Red, Pokemon Blue, or something like that. I remember a little bit of that in pop culture, but I couldn't tell you much about it. I think that this movie has been getting buzz, like how you said. A lot of people really have been supporting this film, but you're also getting how many of those people are actually Pokemon fans? You know what I'm saying? So you're going to say, if you're a Pokemon or a Star Wars fan, you're obviously going to go to bat for the things that you like. How many of these people are just like an outsider like me that are watching this saying, hey, this is a really great film? It seemed like from what I read on those tweets, these people already knew about Pokemon. You know what I mean? So I don't know. That could be a little bit skewed. But to me, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a funny movie. But to me, I don't have any horse in the race, so to speak. I don't really care kind of with Case, kind of just echo what he said. It's one of those films. I'll go see it because I want to see what Ryan Reynolds' voiceover talent is. I'll go for that comedic aspect of things. But overall, I'm not expecting the world on this one.
And to wrap up the movie news, neither am I, in all honesty, because granted, I have not actually watched Pokemon for almost 20 years.
I did.
Like,
never seen it, hated it.
I've never seen them.
I've seen the show.
At
least the first couple of seasons.
Yeah, no, and that was unfortunate when I fell off too. Like I fell off after the third movie, after the first couple seasons, but. Even if some of these, even if some of the critics who have been giving it a lot of love are actually bigger fans than maybe they're letting on, it's still really surprising because I wouldn't have honestly pictured this movie of all things to be the one to potentially break the curse. So who knows if this is the movie that opens the door for video game adaptations to actually work and to actually be good, then you know what? Let's just let it happen. Let it do its thing. As long as we can get better products finally down the road. Because you know what? I'm getting a little sick of some of these really piss poor video game adaptations.
Can't be any worse than Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Oh dear God! Fucking Blood
Super
Rain.
Mario Brothers.
We could go on and on and on about them.
Yeah.
We could go on and on about that, but you know what?
Doom.
Oh,
Dead or Alive.
Ah.
House of the Dead.
There we go.
But the bar is set so low. It's the
This
thing. So you're going to get something like I love Felicia Vikander in Tomb Raider. I think that
Yeah.
franchise. I really, really love her as Lara Croft. I think she's better
I
than
want a
Angelina
second movie
Jolie.
so much.
Yeah.
And they are doing a second one from what I believe, because I think Chance and I reported on that on our podcast. I think he had said something about it. I think it's in the works or something. It's in
Okay.
talks, which I
Yes.
love because I love the whole entire aspect of her. Just I'd like just what she brings to the table as Lara Croft. But yeah, when the bar set's so low, it's easy to make a you would think it's easy to make a decent video game movie. But I thought, like I said, Tomb Raider, to echo with Case, I enjoyed Tomb Raider. I thought that was a really well done video game movie that really I don't know. I felt like it embodied more of the video game aspect of it, as opposed to like Cradle of Life and the original Tomb Raider with Angelina Jolie.
I like
But
that one too.
The first one I like. Cradle of Life's awful. So
Yeah, she punches a shark, and it's just no. But so moving on from that. All right, folks. Let's get into why some of the people in the chat are what some of the people in the chat are just dying to hear, what they're waiting for, what they've been wanting to hear, and they wanted to hear us fanboy over a little movie that released public wide last night, at least for us here in America. I know you Europeans got it a day early. Screw you.
2
Screw
days.
you.
Yeah.
Double screw you. Let's start. Let's dive into Avengers Endgame. Let's get into this. So, obviously, yes, guys in the chat. Once again, if I see any
Spoiler
spoilers getting thrown out in the chat, you're banned for a week.
Yes.
But let's start. So, Avengers Endgame, obviously, starring Josh Brolin, Robert Downey
Everyone.
Jr. Literally everybody.
Everybody.
is in this.
Everyone
Well,
who you've seen in the entire MCU and are not dead yet, they're in this movie.
exactly.
And even half of the people who died in the previous movie.
Yeah.
You kind of figured that out.
You kind of figure that out. But let's just start off with some initial thoughts. Case, Irina, let's start this off with you. Just give us some initial thoughts.
God, this is an emotional roller coaster, start to finish. Like it just starts with dealing what we saw in the first movie, and it takes a while to actually deal with that. And I think that's good, because what happened in Infinity War is a huge thing. You need to deal with that, and I think that it really did a good job of actually giving us closure on that. Then actually plot kicks in, and like what is going to happen in this movie, and then you have one of the best climactic end battles just ever. It's just so goddamn awesome. And I know that some people complain about the Lord of the Rings ending effect, but because yes, it has several endings. It is the end of an 11-year era of 22 movies. What are you gonna expect? And yeah, like I started crying, I think 20 minutes before the end, and I didn't stop until the end credits rolled. It's like, just every single emotion that you have is being moved in you by this movie, and oh God, I loved it. What are your thoughts?
Well, I absolutely loved it. After I saw Infinity War for the first time, I wasn't that big of a fan. I needed to digest Infinity War, but this one hit me immediately. I'm in love. I honestly am. I think Civil War is going to be number one for me anyway, but this one is up there. The biggest thing I want to say about it is that I want to thank the Russo brothers for perfectly respecting every single movie that came before.
Yes.
They showed a complete understanding of the universe, a respect for every single character, and it was just a beautiful ending. I'm so happy that they were the ones who were given this climax of 11 years, and they did a masterpiece of a job with it. I cannot imagine a better ending than this movie.
Yeah.
It was lovely. And how many times did the audience applaud? Like several
Oh,
times.
the audience laughed and applauded and reacted to everything. Like that was a good thing that we were one of the first screenings, and that just means that the entire audience really wants to see the movie. They're into it, and yeah, that was really cool.
Yes.
Awesome. Russell.
Yeah, if you would tell me a couple years ago that the ending of all of these 22 films would be a 3-hour movie, I'd say you're crazy. 3 hours is a little bit too long of a film, but the Russo brothers make it work, and that is the beauty of the Russo brothers. They have really transcended the game in the Marvel MCU by far. What they do behind the camera is nothing short of miraculous, because you have two directors who know what it's like to have characters not overwhelm you. They give everybody their just amount of time on the screen, and I love that aspect of it. I love that nobody seems like they hog the show. Everybody is getting respect, because you have, like, Kees said, you have 11 years, you have 22 movies, you have all these, including myself and you guys. I was on board, in 2008 with Jon Favreau's Iron Man. You know what I mean? And that wasn't even supposed to really even be that great of a movie. And here it has spawned this 21 movies later. We're talking about the ending of this, 11 years in the making. And what the Russo brothers have done, like I said, it's nothing short of miraculous. I love the film. It takes you on that emotional roller coaster. You get the answers that you've wanted, but it also ties into everything that you've watched leading up to it. And it was interwoven beautifully. You get the feels, you get the laughs, you get the tears, you get just everything. It's an emotional train wreck. It really gets you on the edge of your seat, and the 3 hours blow by. And that's credit to the Russo brothers, man. They really did a great job, really, with this phase 3 of Marvel, of MCU. And I love the film, and it's going to be really hard to top this as the best film of 2019.
Ooh. Bold statement. All right, I like it. Now, as far as saying it's the best film of 2019, like, I'm gonna need to see it at least a couple more times, because How to Train Your Dragon 3 completely wrecked my world. So it's gonna be a while before somebody can completely top that. But this movie, I feel like this is gonna be, for me, what Return of the Jedi is for some Star Wars original trilogy fans, what Return of the King is for some Lord of the Rings fans, like Kees, where I've been a fan of the journey that we've been on, and we'll get to it a little more in the second half, where some of the MCU films, I just was starting to get a little bit burnt out on them, but this was the movie that I had a smile on my face the entire time I was watching it, because I'd say that there was a minimum 5 different times where I was genuinely shocked by the directions that this movie navigates. And holy shit. I actually finally cared about this franchise again. I finally got back into it. Like, I finally, for the first time since Civil War, for me, I was back in, because, sure, I don't get me wrong, I really do like Infinity War, but I'm not as high on it as, like,
me,
everyone else is. Yeah, as high as Kees is, But as I was watching this movie, I just thought to myself, holy shit, this is how you end this era of filmmaking.
This era of MCU.
Yeah,
the MCU is definitely not done. There are going to be more movies. I mean, already we know that Spider-Man will have a next movie.
I think that's the last film in the phase, I think, isn't it? Aren't they considering that in phase? That would be the end of phase 3 after Far From Home, right?
And then they'll start with phase 4 with these new characters that we now have been recently introduced to, like a Spider-Man and a Captain Marvel, Black Panther, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Russell. Go ahead.
No, but think of the pressure the Russo brothers had on their back. You got 11 years and 21 movies before to write this and to make sure everybody's on board with it. I mean, the look at the. I mean, again, I'm not saying that it's indicative of it, but Rotten Tomatoes, 96%. You have it on IMDb top 10 already. I mean, what you've done is
Oh, of
you've
course,
done.
that's early reviews.
It is, and again,
Sure.
but it's still top 10. I mean, that's pretty impressive. Again, still early, but the weight on their shoulders for wrapping up these 21 films, or the 21 films before Endgame. I mean, I think they handled it beautifully. Like it literally, and that's the beauty of the Russo brothers. They give everybody the same amount of camera time. I feel. You know what I mean? Obviously, you're going to get people to have a little bit more camera time than others. I get that. But for the most part, they juggle it perfectly. Everybody feels like they contribute something to the movie. And that's what you want to feel as invested as a fan. You want all these superheroes that we've grown to know and love the last 11 years. You want to be on board with them. And I feel like everybody does their job. Everybody does something that really help the whole entire movie move forward. And that's the beauty of it.
And it's funny that you're bringing that up because, like, I mentioned how there were a couple things that I finally, like, really cared about in this movie. And, again, no spoilers, but for the first time in this franchise, I feel that, in particular of the performances, Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow blew me
She's great.
away.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Like, this
like,
was
well,
the ScarJo that I saw in films like Match Point, Lost in Translation. This is a career-defining performance for her.
It's a shame we didn't get this before. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's tremendous, and she was really great, and really, really, really great.
And actually, across you guys, like, were there any standout performances that surprised you guys as much as Black Widow did me?
Well, it also depends on the screen time that people have because where certain people were like disappointed with the amount of screen time of Cap in Infinity War because Cap is not a lot in Infinity War. He is so much more in this movie and just Chris and I have said it before. The only reason that we like Cap is that's 90% Chris Evans' performance as Cap. Chris Evans as Cap is just so great. I loved seeing his arc close out, essentially. I'm not going to spoil anything, but it's just the closing of the arc, which makes sense, after all the movies that he's had right now. And just his performance in this movie, it's so powerful. He has some of the best moments, really, that I'm like, he was great. Of course, Robert Downey Jr. has been so great throughout the entire universe. From the first movie, from the first Iron Man, I loved him. And how that also closes out in this movie, it's like, oh, it's just so great. So just hats off to them for being in this universe for as long as they have been and for still giving their all in this movie. Really the standout performances for me.
I'd say I never cared for Clint, Hawkeye. Well, he's not Hawkeye in this movie, but we saw that from trailers. It's not a spoiler. But finally I was like, yeah.
Jeremy Renner.
Cool,
yeah.
nice. I think it's the change of character that they made, and yeah, there wasn't a single person in the movie that I was like, go away. No, everyone was on point. Everyone did their job.
Paul Rudd as Ant-Man. Just realized.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he had moments.
Oh
yes,
God.
he had a really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
It was so good.
Yeah, I don't like Ant-Man or Ant-Man and the Wasp, but in Civil War and here, that's the Ant-Man.
You like him more as a side
That's the
character.
Ant-Man that I want to see. Than the lead character. So yes.
I would say RDJ. Obviously, I hate to be generic, but RDJ. I mean, Iron Man resurrected his career. He's a Hollywood, he's a Hollywood name now more because of what he obviously in 2008. Obviously, it's so nice to see him, that resurgence of his career and just how he embodies Tony Stark. Just really love everything he puts his heart and soul into that character. You can tell. Chris Hemsworth really does a great job again off of Thor Ragnarok. Man.
Yes.
Hemsworth is a standout in this film for his comedy, and not to take anything away from Mark Ruffalo. I think Mark Ruffalo again is always finding different ways as the Hulk. I love what he has done with the Hulk. I was Team Edward Norton obviously before because I love the Incredible Hulk. I think that's a very underrated film. We'll talk about that I'm sure later. But to me, it's one of those things where Ruffalo really came in, and I think he has really earned the role of Bruce Banner. I like. There was a couple good scenes with Rhodey. that I really like too. Again, it's the Russo brothers giving everybody a little bit of you remember moments, and I think that's the beauty of the film. But the main four Avengers obviously are the ones that steal the show, but not to say that everybody else, what they've done in a film is not short of terrific either, because they made the whole MCU great, man, and everybody in the film, it just works.
I just realized another. Karen Gillan as Nebula.
Oh my god!
There we go.
No, I thought about her, but I'm like, yeah.
I thought she was good.
She does what
absolutely.
she did. I don't know.
It was nice to see more of her, though. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it was part of the reason that this movie works as great as it does, in my opinion, is the fact that the characters that really haven't really had a chance to truly shine in the previous films. And again, we'll get more to that in the second half of the show. But a lot of those characters really were just given center stage for a good solid 5 to 10 minutes apiece. And the thing is, even though this movie's 3 hours long, I don't care, because every single moment counts.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And sure, could you nitpick certain scenes be removed, and would it make a difference? Not necessarily.
Well,
but
let's talk a little bit of negatives then.
Yeah, but let's get in case I'm actually gonna throw this to you in just a second here.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I actually really found fascinating was the first act is a little bit slower. It is a little bit more slowly paced.
Yeah.
And as someone who felt like that was, A, I wanted that. B, the story needed it. And C, I understand if maybe we were used to the fast pace of Infinity War, and maybe that didn't necessarily work for everybody. For me, though, it was perfect.
Yes.
But
I agree.
Case, we were talking about this off camera before we started.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, the thing is, with Infinity War, that is a 2.5-hour movie that to me flies by in an hour and a half. Really, like that's the feeling I have. It flies by so quickly, and every single time I see it, I think it flies by. It's a extremely well-paced movie where I don't really notice that it just goes by so quickly. With Endgame, the 3 hours, I didn't really notice the time either. Like it didn't, like I wasn't like sitting in the theater like, oh, I need to pee or anything, need to eat. No, I was well prepared for that. But I did have a couple of moments where I'm like, maybe you could have cut this and this, and I don't think I would have minded that much. Now, to be fair, the scenes that I'm talking about, I already talked about with you and with you and with Chris, that I'm like, okay, I can see why they put it in there, and I can see why in the end it does matter. But in my personal opinion, there are just a couple of scenes that I think are not the best and are just a little bit too long. I like just a couple of scenes that you can include but not have drag out as long. A couple of those scenes just feel dragged out, and that's where my only real criticism comes from, where I think it's just a little too slow. And on the other hand, that might just be because of the fact that I want to get to the end already, and I am very used to that fast pace of the other movies, especially Infinity War, because that's something that Endgame does differently compared to other MCU movies. Usually MCU movies are fast-paced, funny, good, lots of action. Endgame is not like that. Endgame will actually wait a while to actually give you some action, which is needed, and I get that. I'm completely okay with it, especially because of the payoff that you get at the end. But maybe that's just the first time watch. That's why I really need to rewatch it as well. It just felt a little slow at sometimes, but really that's not that big of an issue I have. That's all I can say.
I do think you just wanted to get there. You just wanted to get to the resolve. I think on rewatch you'll have a different view.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say, and Russell, did you have any criticisms as well?
Criticism when you say about it, some of it drags. I think a lot of the MCU films in general can suffer from that. There are scenes where it feels like it does take a little bit of time. Infinity War was the same way. There was times where I think it dragged and muddled a little bit before it got to something good. And I think what the Russo brothers did, kind of playing off what you said earlier, Chris, about it started out slow. I think it's because we as an audience needed to digest what we saw from Infinity War. I think the slow pace lets us think and reflect back on what we saw unfold in Infinity War, kind of process that and get slowly strapped in for the ride that was Endgame. And I think that's maybe why the Russo brothers did it that way, because, obviously everything that we saw was obviously more action was going to be in Infinity War. I mean, there was way more action in Infinity War, I feel.
Yeah.
But I think Endgame is more of the story and more of the more important things to wrap up everything in the whole entire MCU. But I think maybe that's why it maybe started out slow, because of everything, like I said, to just properly digest what we saw in Infinity War, really think about, Thanos' snap, and then think about what had happened and all the events that transpired after that, the ripple effect that caused. And I think slowly getting into Endgame, with it moving the pace that it moved, kind of was like a roller coaster. You start off slow and then you go up the hill and down. I think that's the best way to do it. And I think Russo brothers utilized that perfectly in Endgame.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we're going to go around the horn one more time before we go to break, and just if there's any other final thoughts we want to give before we hit the break. You know what? Kees and Irina?
Oh, I think my final thoughts are, Endgame is a great movie. You should see it. Everyone is gonna anyway, because it's gonna break every single box office record in existence, it seems. And it's because of the fact that it really does respect all the movies and characters and the people who've worked on this franchise before. Like, it pays an homage to every single movie. And, yes, that does include Thor: The Dark World out of all goddamn movies, that I was like, how do you do that? Well, this movie does it. And it actually made me care that little bit more, because it's definitely my least favorite MCU movie. But hey, that's what I like. That a movie like that can enhance a movie that you really don't like. So that's what I think this movie does so well. It really ends the era on the highest note it possibly could. And I'll give it a grade. It is probably going to go up. For now, I'll give it a 9 out of 10, but it should go up, I think, on rewatch.
Oh, for me, it was an experience, and slow moments, fast moments. It's just, we owe MCU that much to sit and experience everything that they prepared for us. That is why I don't want to look at the negatives. I don't have a rating also yet, but I don't want to focus on problems if I find any. This is really a movie that it's not like other comic book movies,
No.
for me at least. Like, I just want to sit there and pay respect to every single character every single time that I rewatch it, because it just, I got into MCU very late, but how this movie made me care for everything that I've experienced so far, it was brilliant. So
Yes.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Russell?
Every minute's earned. I don't think you could have properly done this movie in 2 hours and give it the send off that it properly deserves. 3 hours, like I said, it goes by rather fast, and the Russo brothers earn every minute of that. I think it's a perfect send off for the whole Phase 3 and the whole MCU 22 movies in general. I just think everything about this film. This is going to be revered as one of the best Marvel movies, I think, later on. Time will tell. We're in that hype now where we just got out of seeing it.
Oh, yeah.
We need to let that stew a little bit, because I remember I was a big Last Jedi fan when I saw it, and then when I started to think about it a little bit, I'm like, oh, you know what I mean? You get caught in that hype, and I mean, I don't want to get caught in that hype, but I everything I saw on the screen last night, it worked, and it really just it wraps it up in a nice little bow for you. Yeah, I guess time will tell the tale on that one. I guess it needs a couple years to just kind of stew and just digest a little bit. But overall, I love this film. If I usually give ratings out of 5. It's a 5 out of 5 for me. It's a perfect film. It really does.
Nice.
The Russo brothers really do a great job, really sending everybody off into the sunset. And I love the film. I'm gonna need to check it out a couple more times before I can really, really give it a definitive rating. But as of right now, like I would go 5 out of 5 for it.
Awesome. Now, I went in expecting this movie to not just be a comic book movie. I went in expecting this movie to be an actual epic, like Lawrence of Arabia, like Return of the King, like so many epics before it. And I got that. And that's why, like, I had the feeling after I see this movie a few more times, this probably will be my favorite MCU movie. This probably will creep its way into my list of my favorite comic book movies of all time. There's a possibility that this movie could work its way into being one of my favorite movies of all time, because this movie rocked my world in ways that I didn't even know it could. But it did. And the Russos need to just pat themselves on the back for the umpteen gajillion dollars this movie is going to fucking make during its theatrical run. And it's going to earn every single penny, because it earned every single ounce of my attention. I adore this movie, so guys, please go watch it. Go see it. If you're an MCU fan, you're going to love it.
Yeah.
I can guarantee it. And if you don't, then fine. Come yell at me on Twitter or something. But until we've had time to let this movie stew, and once it's done making, $3 billion or whatnot,
Hashtag dethrone Avatar.
There we go.
Oh, yeah.
Please.
Come on, let's go. Let's dethrone Avatar finally, guys.
Absolutely. But guys, we're gonna take a short break. We'll be back in about 3-5 minutes, and don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
No! In fairness, that belt's going away anyway.
I can't wait to see how Dave is going to handle Order 66. I can't wait to see how much it's going to break my heart to watch all the rest of the 501st have to attack Ahsoka, and Rex is going to have to pretend to play along just so that way he doesn't risk himself getting killed.
But still, yeah, how are they going to set that up? How are they going to get to that point where Rex, he realizes that Fives was telling the truth, and yeah, there's a brainwashing chip inside of his head, and he's got to get that out.
So yeah, I thought it was a good episode in terms of setting up the next episode, and also already tying into what will happen after the Battle of Winterfell, because what if the Night King is defeated and we actually get to who gets the Iron Throne and that stuff? There are also things set up in that regard. So what did you think of the episode?
Everything was happening. It's kind of slow. Then it does pick up, but overall, I think when we see Battle of Winterfell and when the show is over, this episode is gonna be much more meaningful, yes, in the grand prospect,
because of Holy Week, I decided to resurrect our very first game we did on this show. The Christian movie game is back.
I see what you did.
Oh wow, I didn't even mean to do that one. I'm sorry.
Resurrect. I say hop to it. We're very festive. I love it.
In case you've forgotten how this game works, I am going to give Russell a movie premise. He's going to have to tell me whether or not it is a real Christian movie or another movie that I just added Christian words to.
Okay.
All right, here we go. First question. A woman tired of being single decided to create a profile on a Christian dating site without being a Christian?
I'm going to say that this is a actual movie.
You'd be correct. That is Christian Mingle the movie.
Yes.
There are 5 movies. You gotta get best of 5.
All right. Whew.
Question 2. After being electrocuted, a man is given the power to hear God directly and use this power to advance him in society.
Nah, I'm going to go that's a fake movie.
That is fake. That is the premise of What Women Want.
Yes.
Next question.
And we are back. Sorry about the little mishap there, guys. But it's all good. So, yes. As I mentioned, we're going to be doing a spoiler review next week of where we're really going to break down, really talk about the movie. We're really going to get into it. And I'm not going to lie. A small part of me hopes that the week after that, maybe we could just take a short little break from so much of the geek stuff and maybe just, go back to regular movies. Get back to regular kind of movie talk. But, obviously we're still here to talk about geek stuff like the MCU. And so you know what? I think we can get into that. Wouldn't you agree, Kees? Oh, that's all right.
Talking to MCU, I assume.
Yes. Let's get into the MCU a little bit here. So, back in 2008, none of us actually knew that there was going to be this franchise. This multi-billion-dollar earning franchise that was going to be the biggest cash cow of all time. I think it's fair to say, right?
True. Yeah, especially if you consider what the character that they started off with. Back in 2008, nobody knew who Iron Man was, unless you've read the comics. But Iron Man was not one of the popular Marvel characters. Of course, we had Spider-Man, we had X-Men. That was popular, of course. People knew that. But Iron Man, out of all people. And then you cast Robert Downey Jr., some guy who had no career for years already because he was a drunk, was not doing anything really, was not taken seriously. So you're like...
Outside of television.
Yeah, so it's like he had no career and you're going to cast him in the main role of Iron Man. And people were like, what is this movie? Well, what the movie was the start of the most successful franchise today, and it was actually a really awesome movie, well directed, well acted, and like, wait, where did that come from? Iron Man to this day is my 3rd favorite MCU movie. So, yeah.
And speaking of that first Iron Man movie, Russell, I know that you're actually, to be honest, I actually don't quite know your thoughts on the first film.
The first Iron Man?
Yeah.
Oh, I love the first Iron Man. I remember seeing it back in 2008 when it came out, and really, again, kind of how Echo Case, I really didn't know Iron Man. I had heard of him. I just really didn't know much about him. And then we're going to cast RDJ, which I obviously knew, and I knew the potential that he had, but that was gone by the wayside because he had pissed most of his career away with, drugs and alcohol. And then we're going to go ahead and give him keys to the car here, give him the keys to the ship, so to speak, and have him ride this out as the lead. You got to be crazy. And I remember leaving the movie and I was like, damn, I really enjoyed this movie. And then, just with the whole little end credit scenes that we've just known, grew up on and have known
about the Avengers Initiative,
known to love. I think, I really think Favreau really rolled the dice on this one, and it paid off because we look back and that's, Jon Favreau is an intricate part of the MCU as well. But yeah, I love the first Iron Man. You could not recast RDJ. You could not recast somebody else's Iron Man. To me, he is Iron Man, just like Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. They're just iconic, and what he has built over the last 11 years is nothing short of terrific. He's just, he really has come in as an actor now and has showcased why he was nominated for an Oscar, why he was, he had all this talent. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is still a great movie. He like, to me, he has the talent, and I'm just glad that he got his life back on track, and now he has, the endless possibilities now. So, I really love the first Iron Man. It's definitely up there in my favorites for the Marvel MCU films for sure.
And who would have thought that same year when we got the Incredible Hulk, which served as a quasi sequel to Ang Lee's 2003 film, but also served as the introduction for who would later be Mark Ruffalo's Hulk. The Ed Norton performance. Of course, people were like, "Oh, this is gonna be a thing," because we saw Iron Man in the post-credit scene of that movie.
It's not a post-credit scene. It's the last scene of the movie. It plays before the credits play.
Well, I always consider it a post-credit, but yeah, or not a post-credit, but the first. I know what you mean.
You're right. Correct.
Yeah.
My bad. Sorry guys, not too huge a fan of the Incredible Hulk. It's not my favorite.
Like it. I've seen it plenty.
I've enjoyed it. I think it's a very underrated MCU film.
Look, what I think about the Incredible Hulk is that it's essentially what you could possibly do with a Hulk movie. It's just like the character of Hulk doesn't really lend itself to a standalone movie. That's why his inclusion in Ragnarok, that was awesome, because he is then included in a different movie. And of course, as part of the Avengers, that's great. As a standalone character, just not the best.
You know what? And real quick, is that because the character himself is not very interesting, or is it because, like, at least in the case of the Incredible Hulk, Louis Leterrier just isn't that great of a director?
I think it's kind of a character because we know that TV show with Lou Ferrigno, right? Yes. Yeah. It was very popular. So maybe Hulk is interesting in these little stories, but you can't make a cohesive movie out of it. I think the history proved it. No.
See, I would say it was the director. I think you put somebody else in there with a caliber actor like Edward Norton, I think you would have had more of a successful movie. I thought he was.
And it was also the script.
It was. I mean, again, you can only do with what you're given. I thought maybe if, like, I don't know, maybe like Favreau obviously couldn't have done it, but if somebody else, let's
say the Russos.
Okay.
Would have written and directed a Hulk movie. It
would have been totally different. It would have been totally different from what we saw with Ang Lee and obviously Leterrier or whatever. I mean, I think, like I said, Norton was a good Bruce Banner. I thought he embodied, that Bill Bixby-esque that really was successful in the TV show with Lou Ferrigno. And I really, honestly, I was kind of pissed when Ruffalo was casted as Hulk, because I kind of was really bad. I went to bat for Norton. I liked Norton. I liked what I got out of the Incredible Hulk. I wanted to see that. But obviously, behind the scenes, we saw that he was more of a control freak and really wanted to have.
Norton is an asshole off screen.
They got rid of Terrence Howard. They got rid of Edward Norton.
And Terrence Howard is still my favorite War Machine. I mean, call me crazy.
But
I
mean, he's still my favorite roadie. But
sorry, but like, But to me, I think it was just more of that. Norton wanted to have all these different, like, he was super, trying to, like, almost control the whole entire, character. And I think obviously
he didn't agree to do the film unless he would have gotten to rewrite the script.
Yeah, so he was like a poison to the MCU. I get it. Yeah. I mean, I still liked him as Hulk, and I'm kind of curious now that I think of it. I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see how he would gel with all the other guys, like with a RDJ, with a Chris Evans, with a Chris Hemsworth. You know what I mean? Like, if they actually moved on with him, it's kind of crazy to see.
And I honestly don't know if he would have.
I don't know.
Just especially if you put if you put RDJ and Norton in the same room, that is just fireworks.
Yeah.
And
Well,
not in a
RDJ
good way.
Yeah, and I think RDJ could act circles around Norton. I think Norton's a good actor. Don't get me wrong. Norton is a terrific actor. But I think Ruffalo is more. He can be serious when he needs to be, and he can be comical when he wants to be.
Ruffalo is more adaptable.
Yeah. He bends more than Norton. Norton's more. He just doesn't. He's not flimsy at all. It's more his way, or what I mean, or the highway, and he's not a team player, so to speak. And I think that's why, Ruffalo in hindsight now is a great choice for Banner. But I just went to bat for Incredible Hulk because I've always enjoyed that film, and what could have been.
I mean, we can kind of give MCU credit for right off the bat establishing that we need a team of actors that will work well together. We need it to be harmonious, and we need it to be like no conflict at all. So they immediately got rid of actors that they knew would cause problems. So good for them for making such difficult decisions early on, and now we have
because
cast.
Can you imagine an Avengers with Norton?
Now I couldn't. Now I couldn't.
No.
Yeah.
Exactly. And again, that's one of the things that I actually really have to give a lot of credit to the MCU on, where every single, like, for the most part, because of course there were misfires all throughout this run, but what do we think is the true strength of this franchise? Is it the stories, or is it more the characters?
Oh, no, it's the characters.
It's the characters,
and it's always been that, because one thing that a lot of people have always said about the MCU loves their heroes. That comes, unfortunately, with a lack of great villains, but their heroes is always what they put first and foremost. They always make sure that who they cast in the role of the hero and the actual writing of the hero throughout their standalone movie is really to make sure that their hero stands out. Unfortunately, that makes sure that you get a couple of weaker villains, more forgettable villains. Like, to be fair, I like Jeff Bridges as Obadiah Stane / Ironmonger. Could have been better.
But he's not the strongest. He's
not
not
strong.
Thanos.
That's the thing. I like Tim Roth as what's his name again?
Abomination.
Abomination.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of the Blonsky. There you go.
Blonsky.
But also not the best. And that's just like up until Loki, or at least most people can agree that Loki was the first good villain in Thor and the Avengers. Of course, after that he became a character rather than a villain. But in Thor and the Avengers, he's a good villain. And that's something that most of the other movies kind of lack, a good villain. But at least they care about their heroes, and at least they set up the heroes well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, and well, sorry, Russell.
No, I was thinking, just sidetrack. Iron Man 2 instantly popped into my head, and I felt like the only reason why they casted Rourke is he was hot off of The Wrestler. I feel like that's the only reason why they casted him as a villain in Iron Man 2. Not taking anything away from Michael Keaton, but the resurgence of Michael Keaton, I think, obviously played a hand in Spider-Man: Homecoming as Vulture.
Yeah. He's great.
Yeah.
Yes.
But he's great. I'm not taking anything away from him. I'm just saying I think we get into that trap too, though, with like the hot names for villains. I think sometimes, Michael B. Jordan obviously was terrific in Black Panther. But yeah, kind of like echo what you guys say. There are no, if you look through Phase 1, like it's pretty much low-key. That's pretty much the like Red Skull, okay, decent, forgettable character. Whiplash, not that great. Abomination, not that great. Obadiah and Loki, I would say, out of Phase 1. But yeah, and then it came up until Thanos, obviously. We had obviously the Winter Soldier as a villain. I mean, obviously he was a villain.
Mm-hmm. Hela was great.
Hela was great.
Hela was excellent. Thor Ragnarok.
Zemo was pretty good.
Yeah, but they really underrated. But they pride themselves on the characters, on their superheroes.
Yeah.
And kind of what Case says, you can't, when you think, you see, okay, it's RDJ, it's Chris Hemsworth, it's Chris Evans, it's Mark Ruffalo, boom, there's your guys right there. And I think everything kind of just fell into place with it. Some of them have a stronger storyline, a stronger arc than others. I kind of go to bat with Case. I think Tony Stark has more of an arc than Chris Evans. Cap. That's just my opinion as well, just because I gravitate more towards RD. Oh no!
Well,
phenomenal arcs.
Also, to be fair, we saw more of Iron Man than we saw of Cap. Because Iron Man had his 3 movies, every single Avengers movie, Spider-Man: Homecoming, and
Civil War.
War.
A Captain America movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But I feel. Yeah.
But to be fair, the fact that I loved RDJ from the beginning, and it only just grew and grew and grew with each film, and such still remains the case with Endgame. And the thing with Cap is that, I grew to love him over time. But once I started caring, I really cared.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah.
So you could argue Cap had the bigger mountain to climb, especially with the fans, because what's the one complaint everyone's always said about Captain America? Oh, he's a Boy Scout. He always does the right thing.
Yeah.
But then Winter Soldier comes around, and I'm just like, oh shit.
Wait, Captain America is a cool character?
Whoa. Who'd have thunk?
Yeah.
Okay, can I add about the Iron Man Cap thing? Like, I'm gonna offer perspective of a person who completely hated Iron Man for a very, very, very long time. So I didn't watch MCU until I saw Age of Ultron in the theaters. I think so, and my friends dragged me to it, and I'm like, sure. But the thing with Iron Man, my friend loved him, and I saw him as a worse version of Batman, because at least Batman was hiding, but Iron Man's like, I'm Iron Man. Oh, you cocky son of a bitch! I hate you. That was my thought. I saw him as a cocky, just whatever. I watched the movie several times. I didn't like it. I'm still not on board with it. I think I still have the past me in my head, but coming from completely hating Iron Man to being fully on board with him, that was incredible. And the movie that made me fall in love with MCU was Civil War, and still to this day it's my favorite movie. That is why Captain is my favorite character, because it's a Civil War. I love the movie, I love the character, and I looked at Iron Man from the different perspective. So I do agree that Iron Man has a bigger arc, even though I hated him. But even for me, coming from hating to loving him, I do agree with all of you that he has the biggest arc. But Captain America surprised a lot of people when in Civil War he's like, screw being a good guy. Screw your course, screw everything. I'm gonna do whatever I want. So that was great. And they're both so
well, that's especially if you consider their first movie that they're in, because what they do in Civil War is completely against how the character initially is established, and that is through an arc of several movies that you see. Because the first Captain America, the first Avenger, is one of the weakest MCU movies, in my opinion. I think it is a very fine, okay movie, which I can watch, but it really does treat Captain America as the Boy Scout. The only reason that I slightly care about Cap is Chris Evans from that first movie, but then the Russos came in, did Winter Soldier, and just like I was baffled when I saw Winter Soldier that I was like, how is Captain America cool? He was never cool. I can't imagine Captain America being cool, because in my opinion, he was like Superman. Also, a character that I think is not that great, even though everyone fucking loves him. Like, he's a Boy Scout, I don't care. But in Winter Soldier, he was cool. And then in Civil War, he was really cool. You care, and it's emotional, and it's just what the Russos did with the franchise, we've said it a couple of times, and we will say it again because it is so great.
The Russos took what was already starting out to be a really good franchise, and they kicked it up to 11.
Yeah.
You know,
It's true.
And like Russell, as a fellow geek, would you say that like that's sort of been your personal experience with this franchise, like where it started off pretty good, but then you just felt something kick it into overdrive?
I think Winter Soldier was a turning point. I really do. I think Winter Soldier, the ninth movie in the whole entire franchise, I think that really started it, I think, to me. I mean, obviously the Avengers was a culmination of, in 2012 was a culmination of seeing all these characters on the screen for the first time. And that in its own right was great. Joss Whedon did a fine job with it. It's still a good movie. But I think Winter Soldier, I'll throw out Avengers of Ultron just because I really didn't care for it. But once we hit into Ant-Man, really cared about a character that we didn't really know a whole lot about. But once we hit Phase 3, we really hit the ground running. And I think everything in Phase 3 is strong. I would say outside of, for the most part, I think Phase 3 is probably the best tale of the tape. I mean, obviously, there's more obviously films in there, but I felt like they started really hitting their stride here at Phase 3. And I think Winter Soldier was I'd say Winter Soldier was the time that it really, I think, really took off with the Russo brothers. I think they tried to, because Guardians of the Galaxy came out of nowhere and surprised people.
Yeah.
And Age of Ultron, obviously, we said was weak, but I mean, it was a serviceable film. It wasn't Dark World, or it wasn't Iron Man 2. Ant-Man was really good enough. But yeah, I think kind of just what you said. I think Winter Soldier, I think, was a turning point of all that.
I want to add one more thing about Civil War. Imagine me completely not caring about MCU, again being dragged by friends to see Civil War. I'm like, okay, sure, how many times are you gonna do this? Just give up on me already. But I was gasping and I was in shock, and the movie made me care about the characters that I hated, essentially. And when that moment where we see Iron Man finding out that Bucky killed his parents, I like, oh! I said, oh, that killed. That's how good it is. That it made me love it when I hated it all.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I'm taking a look at the chat here, and I see that the cool guy actually brought up a really interesting point, at least for his perspective, that he always enjoyed the movies, but Black Panther really changed his view of what an MCU movie can be. And actually, I feel like for at least most of us, it was either Winter Soldier or Civil War that kind of convinced us, at least here on the panel, what an MCU movie could be. Is that a fair statement?
Okay. I do want to say I was on board with the franchise from the get-go.
Oh, yeah, same here.
And that's simply because from the get-go, from Iron Man, this franchise has been doing, and still up until this year, it has been doing everything that people don't expect. Because, as I said at the beginning, everyone was like, who's Iron Man? Nobody knows Iron Man. What happens? Iron Man is a success. Same happens years later with the Avengers. Oh no, so many great characters that we've set up through these movies. There's no way you can, it's one of the best movies ever. Okay, cool. Then the next part was Winter Soldier. Yeah, there's no way you can make Cap cool. Oh, they did that. Guardians of the Galaxy comes out. What is Nobody knows what Guardians of the Galaxy is.
Raccoon.
And it's like, you have a tree and a talking raccoon, and this is not going to work. Oh, it's actually one of the best regarded MCU movies. Every single time they've done this, and then you get Ant-Man. Like, what is this character? And then you get Black Panther, a completely black movie. Like, no one ever expected that to happen, and then it happened and it was a success.
Spider-Man again. Spider-Man again, and they did it well.
Yeah, one of the best Spider-Man movies, which no one really expected after having already seen 5 Spider-Man movies, or Captain Marvel for that matter. I mean, we already had Wonder Woman for representation for strong females, but Captain Marvel did it in the MCU, and that's also important. And it broke $1 billion. So it just shows every single time that people are like, "Oh no, this is gonna fail." No, it's not gonna fail. Every single movie hits. Okay, there are a couple of duds, like a Thor: The Dark World, like a Guardians Volume 2. There are a couple of ones that are not that good. They're still better than some of the worst comic book movies out there, I'll say. And I think, as I said for our Endgame review, all those movies, like regardless of what you think of them initially, it will come back in Endgame, and it makes you care. And that's what I think is really strong about the universe.
Fair enough, and it's that kind of storytelling that you literally don't see in any other franchise, in my opinion. Because the DCEU, they haven't done that.
They tried it, they failed.
They tried it and they failed.
But it's about blueprint too, though. We've seen that the movies in the MCU have been strategically placed out, and I think that's why, obviously, and that's the credit to the success of the films. We've seen Iron Man, we see Hulk, we see Thor and Cap before we see them all together in Avengers. We don't get that almost with the Justice League or BVS. Everything's rushed, everything's thrown out. They're behind the 8 ball before they even start. They should have taken the time, done all this correctly, and not try to play catch up to MCU. Tell your own stories. Tell about Batman. Tell about Superman. Tell about Wonder Woman. Tell about, put Green Lantern, Flash, Aquaman, whatever. But take the time to do it. Don't sit there and try to compare and compete against MCU, because you're not going to. There's a reason why the MCU is so successful. It's because of the blueprint scale that I think that Feige has kind of pretty much, has fine-tooth combed and perfected. There's a reason why there's 22 movies in this whole entire, MCU.
In this entire season of television.
Yeah, and it's. I mean, look at the success rate of look how many of these films are in the top 20 box office haul overall. I mean, you probably got a handful of them in there. I'm sure. I see several of them right now.
At least 5 of them.
So you're looking at that success, and I think DC's obviously behind. I'm obviously, I like Superman, so it's one of those things where they were just behind the 8 ball. They're playing catch up, and they're doing things the way that they think they should do it to catch up to MCU, instead of taking the time, putting the blueprint out, and going, step by step. And I think that shows you the MCU, the success and the longevity is because of the blueprint that they put forward.
Exactly. I mean, and as much as as much as I love this current era of Star Wars, again, they tried doing a similar approach where they're just sort of they give us a saga film, and then they give like these side stories,
anthology.
And sure, are most of them good and well made? Yes, but is there a clear, solid plan in place? It kind of proved itself no.
And I told Chance that before. I said the thing that Star Wars suffered from The Force Awakens was an anticipation that I didn't feel for obviously The Last Jedi. And I think what was happening was the oversaturation of Star Wars films. You had a Rogue One. You had a Solo, a Star Wars story. You were starting to really throw Star Wars down the throats of people. And I think it just got oversaturated with Star Wars stuff. You know what I mean? I remember the anticipation in '99 for Phantom Menace. I was 15. I was so excited because we hadn't had anything since 1983. You know what I mean? So, you had a 16-year break and window, and I remember just being so excited about it. And even in 02 and 05, respectively, for, the Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. But, it was different because you had that gap in between. Okay, so you had 2005 to when Force Awakens came out. So you have 10 years. You have that, you wanting it more. And I think what happened is Star Wars just got into that, we can make money. We're just going to start throwing stuff out altogether. And it's but it's was Solo really a good movie? It was okay. It was like how you said, Dohmen. It was serviceable. Rogue One was okay. It was serviceable. But to me, I think it was just one of those things where I think that we just got tired of seeing the Star Wars films.
But it's also because it came out in the wake of the MCU.
No, and
and again, not to crap on, stuff like DCU or stuff like the current era of Star Wars, or even something like the failed Dark Universe, because let's face facts, we didn't realize that we were watching a television show until we were about 6-7 movies in and to be honest, I don't know if an undertaking of this caliber will ever be successfully done ever again.
Yeah, because I think that a lot of people with franchises in mind will do like, oh, let's try to be the MCU, but because they want to be the MCU, it won't succeed. Because they're like, oh, let's already set up this and this and this, because they did it in Iron Man. No. You forget what Iron Man did. Iron Man, for the 2-hour runtime that it was, besides the post-credit scene, just cared about making one good movie. The fact that certain elements came back later in other movies, that makes sense, and that's fine, but they only figured that out after the movie was done, and they only give you one short end credit scene, which is still one of the best credit scenes ever, where Nick Fury faces Iron Man. I'm here to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative. That's the only thing that they did in terms of setup, and it's in the credit scene. And that's something that probably most universes, that especially if you see the goddamn Tom Cruise Mummy movie, they try to set up everything in that movie. Yeah. And because of it, it's a shit movie.
Well, BVS does the same thing.
Yeah.
Try to set up Justice League. Yeah.
So, by the way, for people wondering, in the top 10 box office behemoths of all time, and this is worldwide gross, number 4 is Infinity War, number 6 is Avengers, number 8 is Age of Ultron, number 9 is Black Panther. It just shows 4 of the 10 are MCU movies.
And you're going to have 5 when Endgame comes up.
Yeah, and Endgame is probably going to be in there as well.
Yep.
And even crazier, 2 of those came out in the last year.
Yeah.
Black Panther and Infinity War. It just shows that the hype is still there. Captain Marvel broke $1 billion. Endgame is going to break every single record. It just shows how popular this franchise is, and that you don't need to have the waiting hype for it. So yeah, it's just insane.
I think different franchises have to have a different approach to it. I don't think we should all. What works for MCU doesn't work for DC. We know that. We've seen it. What works for Star Wars doesn't. They're not going to do the same thing that MCU does. You have to do it at your own pace. And I think everybody sees this blueprint and they're like, we can do this, but you can't. What would have happened if they would have done a Man of Steel, which I still think is one of the best DC movies? If you would have done a Man of Steel and then you would have slowly built up after that.
Man of Steel 2.
Man of Steel 2, which I still think, oh god,
should have done that before.
I'm
they
still so
BBS.
Pissed about that. Absolutely. Then set it up a little bit. Then you got Wonder Woman. Then you start having your juggernauts. Yeah, you're gonna have a shit movie like Suicide Squad, but Aquaman slowly was like an Aquaman. Look at that box office wise, huge success.
$1 billion.
So it's one of it's Shazam. Like we're really starting to get into. I think DC is starting to find their footing now.
DC is starting to learn, make standalone movies and don't care about setting up other stuff.
Or if you're going to set it up, put solo movies into it first before you build a big, like the Avengers. That was the 6th movie in the thing. You don't have the Justice League with like 3 movies into it. Like no one cares, or 4 movies into it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's just, and you don't even count Suicide Squad because that has nothing to do with the Justice League. So you can even pitch that. So you literally had Man of Steel.
Suicide Squad was trying to do Guardians.
Yeah. Well, and that's what, again, it was trying to do.
Which is doubly ironic because, who's directing the next Suicide Squad movie? Guardians
and
himself.
who's directing the next Guardians movie? It's the same goddamn person.
But it's, I don't know. But I guess to bring it, tie it all together, I think MCU has found a blueprint that works for them. I think these other ones should kind of just cool it off a little bit. I think after episode 9, we're going to get a little bit of a break from Star Wars films. I think DC slowly starting to find their footing. Which is great because I don't want to see DC suffer and suck and because I mean we're comic book fans, we're nerds, we like that stuff, we want to see the success of it, but put out good products, don't rush it out. I feel the same thing about Star Wars. Take your time with it. We get episode 9, okay, then we can break it out for a little bit. Let's just relax with it and kind of just not oversaturate it. And I think the reason the MCU does it well is because all these stories kind of are interwoven together too. And that's, the beauty of the MCU as well, on top of it.
Exactly, and I think for, because we're gonna start to wind it down just a little bit, but before we head out of here though, here's what I do. I want to go around the horn a couple more times, and you guys mentioned just like being kind of and we've all kind of mentioned being disappointed by some of these other franchises that have been trying to quote unquote copy the MCU and like whatnot, but the MCU hasn't been perfect.
No.
Unfortunately.
No, absolutely. This is very true.
And let's go around and let's just have a quick discussion about like what were some things for everybody here that just didn't quite work in the MCU. It doesn't have to necessarily be like specific movies, but just like, was there something like overall that just hasn't worked for you?
I think you should go first, considering you were late into the MCU. What were things why you weren't into the MCU up until Civil War?
I think it was just that I didn't like Iron Man. I was blindly hating him, and I was arguing with my friend who was trying to convince me that Iron Man is awesome. I'm like, just shut up, Batman's better, because I was on the hype of Nolan's trilogy. Yes,
Yeah.
but my friend was all about Iron Man, so we were kind of butting heads. I'm still fine with the Avengers, honestly. But why that didn't work for me, I don't know. I think characters in the Avengers are more on the surface.
Basic level,
it's with Civil War that we get deep, that we get personal and emotional. So. Yeah. First phase suffers for me. Characters are basically on the surface, and it's just story. They're fighting aliens and stuff like that. The deeper we get, that's what she said. I'm sorry, but the better it becomes. I'm sorry. And the other thing, I don't like Ant-Man movie, and Kees and I, we dissected my dislike of Ant-Man, and we came to a conclusion that Paul Rudd is not a leading man, in my opinion. He's a supporting character. Yeah. I really like Ant-Man in Civil War. I really like Ant-Man in Endgame. But him as a movie, as a lead, it didn't work for me. But that's just me. A lot of people like the movie. It's entertaining to them. So I'm... What I want to say that the stuff that I didn't like about MCU, it's not there anymore. And there's going to be probably one more Ant-Man movie, doesn't matter. But I am confident in MCU's future because of trials and errors and going forward, and just I don't have any issues anymore.
All right. Kees?
Yeah, of course, I have a list. And if I look at my list, one of the things that I noticed the most about it is the first sequel to a movie in the MCU. Every time, the second movie of a longer-running franchise is usually the weakest. Iron Man 2, Avengers Age of Ultron, Thor: The Dark World, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Ant-Man and the Wasp. It's simply because they can't really do anything. Like, what they're very good at is setting up characters, usually. Usually. Not every time. Sometimes the characters don't work for me that well in their first movie, but they grow on me later in other movies, usually in team-up movies. Team-up movies are usually the best, at least in my opinion. But, like, the first sequel, like, Thor: The Dark World. Thor, I think, is a very good, fun movie. Not one of the best MCU movies, but a good movie that sets up a good character, well cast, Chris Hemsworth in the role, well directed by Kenneth Branagh, bring Asgard to life, something that people never expected. And then Thor: The Dark World.
And like Thor, we went another, but
exactly.
Didn't work out.
But then you get Thor: The Dark World, and they're like, oh, let's bring in a director from Game of Thrones, Alan Taylor, because he... I think it's Alan Taylor.
Yes.
And he has directed a couple of very good Game of Thrones episodes, and they're like, okay, he can probably direct this movie. No. There are several flaws with this movie, and simply because yeah, you need to do more after this movie. Now, it does introduce something very interesting to heavily feature an Infinity Stone for the first time and actually set up the Collector. That's interesting, but that's the end credit scene. That's not the entire movie. Malekith is one of the most boring, most forgettable villains in the entire MCU. That's just an issue.
Which is a
Guys,
shame because he's played by a great actor.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Iron Man 2, I like it. It's also very weak, and Jon Favreau was forced to do it because they needed to get to the Avengers. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, yeah, it takes place right after Guardians. Give Peter Quill a dad, but don't kill off any of the Guardians because they need to repair Infinity War. It's just, they can't really do anything because there needs to be the next movie. Nobody can really die. So
The Winter Soldier is the exception.
The Winter
I was going to say Winter
Soldier is the
Soldier.
exception.
It is the exception.
Yeah, it's really the exception to the rule. But that's because the first movie is not that great, in my opinion.
I agree.
So yeah, that like mostly it was sequels, but I think we're pretty much we will still probably get that. I think because we're gonna get a Black Panther 2, a Captain Marvel 2, a Spider-Man Far From Home.
The thing is, all the characters that you're mentioning right now, the movies that the sequels we're expecting, they appeared in several MCU movies already. So we got those characters. With the Thor, it was his second appearance.
True.
With Ant-Man, no, but I don't think it's gonna be an issue anymore because they're like, we've been through the battles. Let's do something or other, like Spider-Man Far From Home. I can't wait. I cannot wait.
It looks good.
Oh, I am so scared for Far From
But,
Home.
Oh my God! Come on.
No, I trust Jake Gyllenhaal, man. He's a really great actor, and I think he's gonna bring a different side too.
But they have seemed to really turn around one of their issues at the beginning of the MCU, but what not really an issue anymore. Their villains, because their villains were weak as shit. Loki was really the only standout, but then we got Vulture and Hela, and probably the biggest ever with Thanos. And
Killmonger.
I'm not a fan of Killmonger.
For the rest of us, Killmonger.
Yeah.
Okay,
Killmonger.
but at least Thanos, in my opinion, is not only the best MCU villain, it's probably the best comic book villain, period. What they've done with that character.
Sure.
That's my opinion. So, even better than Joker. Yeah. Come at me, tweet me. I don't care.
And to be fair, Kees, you have an argument.
Yeah,
yes.
You do. You absolutely do.
Thank you.
But
so yeah, the villain problem they've solved.
Sequel, hopefully.
Please, but no, Russell.
I'm just looking forward to more standalone films from different characters that we not initially would have known a whole lot about, like your Doctor Strange, like your Ant-Man, like your Captain Marvel. Like I like that just because it is going to be setting the tone
Also
for moving
weak-ass
forward.
villain.
You know what I mean? So that'll be moving. You know what I'm saying? Like setting the table to move forward in the second half of like the MCU now. You know what I mean? I'm looking forward to seeing some of that. So I think that'll be fun. Yeah, kind of echo what Kay said. Yeah, the sequels outside of Winter Soldier were weak. I'm just going to throw out, like I say, out of the Phase 1, I would say Iron Man 2 and Cap for me probably the weakest of the ones there. Phase 2, I'm looking at Dark World. I'm looking at Ultron. I'm looking at really wasn't a huge fan of Iron Man 3 and the Mandarin. I thought that was really stupid.
I like
Phase 3, I'd say Guardians Volume 2 probably weakest. Ant-Man and Wasp is good. I mean, Phase 3 has a lot of really heavy hitters. Doctor Strange, I think, is a super underrated film.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Ragnarok is the best Thor.
Yes.
Black Panther, Avengers, Phase 3 is the heavy hitters. But you have more movies. You have 2, 4, 6, 8. You have 10 movies in Phase 3.
But that's why it's more difficult to make it great.
Actually, 11, because you're going to have Far From Home as 23. Because I mean that's going to be still part of the Phase 3.
Yeah.
So you're going to have 23.
That's the last
films.
one though.
Obviously, Phase 3. Outside of Phase 3, the strongest, I would say, of the two between 1 and 2. That brings up an interesting topic. Like Phase 1, Phase 2.
I would say 1 for what they had to do back then. Phase 2 is mostly just sequels and do what Phase 1 set up. That's
but putting out a team of people that we didn't think would get along together, and a talking raccoon and a talking tree, and the success that spawned out
true.
too. So I don't know. And Ant-Man's serviceable. I agree. I think I see him as a leading character. I do, but Ant-Man in himself. He's good peppered in as a supporting role in those other films, like your Civil War, like your Infinity War, like your Endgame. You know what I mean? Like, you just sprinkle him in a little bit and he's fine. But Ant-Man's obviously, I think they should probably do another. They'll do a third. I don't see why they wouldn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I would just say, outside of that, I think moving forward, I'm just looking forward to some standalone films from some different superheroes that I don't know a whole lot about. Get their origin story, get to know these characters, and grow. Get older and get attached to more characters that we've already gotten attached to. You know what I mean? That's the beauty of this MCU. I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. And I'm looking forward to the next chapter, man. I really am.
Yeah.
I was about to say, that kind of sounds like a little bit of final thoughts, and the last thing I was going to go around the horn and ask, what are we all looking forward to? But so here for the last 10 minutes, this is basically what I'm going to do. I'm going to give just my little criticism, then I'll throw it to Kees and Irina for their final thoughts, what they're looking forward to as we move out of season 1 of the MCU. But no, so my criticism is that, I'll be completely honest, guys. Last year and for the first part of this year, up through Captain Marvel, I was at burnout with this franchise. I was at complete burnout. Because, obviously, of course, I've seen every single one of these movies. I've seen most of them in theaters, as far as when I could actually take myself to the theater, I think the first one I saw was Thor and Captain America, First Avenger, and then, of course, I've seen everyone in the theaters since. And, starting around, I'd say, after I saw Civil War and then went and saw Doctor Strange, I'm just like, okay, yeah, that was good. That was good. Or same thing when I saw in 2017. Spider-Man, Thor, and
Guardians Volume 2.
Guardians Volume 2. To me, they all just ranged from fine to pretty good. But, none of them were really standing out, and that's because I wasn't quite I was aware that at this point, this is basically like a television show. But again, I wasn't quite seeing all the interconnecting pieces, like how they were really going to tie everything together, because I'm just like, well, how the fuck are you supposed to do that? That I don't think this is going to work. But then, of course, yes, I got proven wrong with Infinity War. But I'm still not grabbing it. I'm still not getting it. Because don't get me wrong, Infinity War is a fine fucking movie. It's a damn good movie. But it doesn't really do much for me emotionally.
And that's your opinion.
But that was until Endgame. Because to be honest, I'm probably gonna rewatch Infinity War. I honestly might rewatch Infinity War Sunday night, and then because I'm gonna go see Endgame again on Monday in IMAX 3D, which I'm so excited for that.
Oh, I love it.
It's gorgeous.
Oh yes. And then of course I got a screening right after that, so that's gonna be real interesting. For a long show.
Oh, and don't forget that you need to tape a couple of things on Monday.
Oh, fuck it. Oh no. Oh shit. Damn it. Yeah, you're right.
Sorry.
Monday's gonna suck. Anyway, it's kind of funny that sure this quote unquote last film of this era, because chronologically speaking, this would be the last film of the era, I presume. This what Endgame did was it presented me with the best possible ending for this franchise. I'll put it this way: if the MCU were to completely stop after Endgame, I would be completely satisfied.
Yeah.
But because we're getting more, you know what? Okay. What's next? So, yeah, one more time around the horn. Case, Irina, what are you guys hoping for after Far From Home? Phase 4.
Well, they have this idea for the cosmic universe, and they've set that up with Guardians, Thor, Captain Marvel, all those characters that are not on Earth. And considering that I am not just a big comic book and fantasy guy, I am also a big fan of sci-fi, and I would love to see them explore planets, alien creatures. Because I didn't expect to like Captain Marvel as much as I did, and I want to see more of that. I think that she can be a really great character, and especially to lead at least the cosmic part. And of course, the Guardians. We know, like, there's a Guardians Volume 3 is already announced. Like, besides Guardians Volume 2, I love the Guardians in everything. Their first movie, Infinity War, Endgame. I love them in everything. So I want to see more of that. That's what I probably am most excited about. And I want to see Doctor Strange too.
Yeah.
I like Doctor Strange. I think is one of the best MCU movies, considering that it came out in the same year as Civil War. I mean, of course, Civil War is the best movie, but still, Doctor Strange is damn good, and I really like the entire mythology behind that. I want to see more of that. So. There are a lot of cool things to look forward to. Of course, this year even, Spider-Man Far From Home, it looks really cool. Jake Gyllenhaal is a powerhouse actor, so I want to see it. For you.
I agree about Doctor Strange. I know it's taking them a while, probably because they just wanted to focus on Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah.
Especially that in Infinity War we see how important Doctor Strange was in parts. But also, Cumberbatch is probably very difficult to navigate because he's an actor of a very high caliber. But yeah, I'm very excited about that because every time I watch Doctor Strange, it becomes better for me. That's why I'm excited for that. Far From Home. Overall, I want to chill for a little while.
Yeah, especially with Far From Home.
I don't want them to start building a new huge thing. Let's just chill, look at separate movies, look at separate stories, and maybe in 5 years, if you want to set up some big bad again and a huge battle in the cosmic.
Galactus.
Yeah.
They still need to do Galactus.
Do that later. Let's just have fun right now. I want Black Panther 2 to be maybe more fun because the first one was a little bit with a fight within Wakanda. Like, let's just relax. That's what I'm looking forward to now. We've had so much. We need a change of pace.
We've had so much crazy.
Yeah.
So let's tone it back a little bit.
Yeah.
I get that. Russell, any final thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree. After Far From Home, I think just kind of like, let's just take a break for a little bit and kind of, collect ourselves and just kind of like just doing what we have. You know what I mean? We're going to have 23 MCU movies. I think we just can relax with it and kind of playing off what Case said. It would be kind of cool to see like an intergalactic type, phase with Captain Marvel, with Guardians, you know what I mean? With Thor, sky's the limit with that. And I know they're going to do right by all of us nerds. And I just think that introducing some more, play off with what Irina said. Irina, right?
Yeah.
What's her name? Irina,
no,
right?
Yeah, Irina.
Irina. I was about to say, if you want to go by the correct pronunciation, it's Irina, but Irina.
Irina. Okay. I want to pronounce it right.
Yeah.
Kind of snowball with what she said. Kind of like, yes, let's see some standalone characters now. Let's get introduced to people that we not necessarily would want to, you know what I mean? Not think that we would like an Ant-Man, like a Doctor Strange, stuff like that. I think that would be fun. I think that'll be fun. I mean, it'll be more fun as opposed to just having all these sequels and all these movies where you're just throwing everybody together. I think it'll be nice to see some standalone films too moving forward.
They're just larger than life stories. Let's just postpone those.
Yeah,
I don't know.
because it can absolutely be exhausting. I think we've hit our peak now. I think it's good now. We've ended on a good note, and I think we just need to scale back a little bit, relax, and just maybe do some origin stories. Just do, do some other things like that.
Yes.
Yeah. No, and what I'm surprisingly very excited for the future now because of Endgame and because of how everything got wrapped up so fucking perfectly. And yeah, like I do think that we honestly we can only go up from here because now we've opened up so many new doors to new types of stories. And we again, without spoilers, there is a way that we can maybe touch up some things from previous stories because of what happens in this movie. There's some ways, so there's ways that we can revisit some of those stories from before. And what I'm also looking forward to is, again, as Kay said, like, when it comes to Star Wars, I'm a lore guy. I love lore. So the more we can, really dive into that and really soak up everything there is to know about this universe, that's what I'm looking forward to. Russell seemed to cut out there for a moment.
No,
I think he just has his camera off.
No, I was checking my phone. I'm good. I'm here.
Oh, gotcha. All right. Sorry about that. But yeah, so, and that's why I'm just gonna simply close this out by saying, Joe Russo, Anthony Russo, Joss Whedon, Alan Taylor, Louis Leterrier, Jon Favreau, John Watts. Just trying to think who is there any other directors I'm missing?
Scott Derrickson.
Kenneth Branagh.
Scott Derrickson, Kenneth Branagh, Joe Johnston.
Shane Black.
Shane Black, absolutely. James Gunn.
Yeah, just going by them.
The guy who did.
Not Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Peyton Reed. There we go.
Peyton Reed. Scott Derrickson.
Yes. And that should be it. I hope. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. In the comments.
Marvel.
Sounds about right.
Oh yeah, the 4 directors of Captain Marvel. So,
yeah, that's true.
Ryan Coogler.
Ryan Coogler.
Oh wow,
Yes.
Coogler, yeah.
Duh. Wow. To all of you, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for taking us on this 11-year journey. And to Kevin Feige, doubly thank you for having the genius to oversee this entire thing, for having the balls to take on a challenge of this caliber and to actually pull it off as well as you did.
The king.
Fuck. That's impressive. So, guys, thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Who Cares Anyway podcast. There were some ball bags in the chat, but you know what? We took care of them. It's all good. And, for everybody who was listening on whether it's iTunes, Spotify, now Podbean, we're also on there too. Yay. Wherever you are getting your favorite podcasts, thank you so much for listening. Please make sure you guys rate, review, leave a comment. And yeah, let's keep growing this. Let's keep growing this, baby. I can't wait to have bigger conversations and, have more conversations with people outside of just this channel and outside of just this space. But until then, to our dear guest, Russell Howell, once again, man, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. Where can the good folks find you online?
YouTube. House Hollywood Reviews kind of been idle for the last 5 months, kind of just been really focusing on my podcast I do with good old Schmodown Chance Ellison. Join our Facebook group, Notorious by Chance. Also, the podcast of the same title, Notorious by Chance. We review different movies we put up for a poll, so that's why it's important to join the Facebook group so you can get in, chime in what you want us to review. We do it. Also, starting another podcast with Hunter Chambliss. We're doing it's called Horoscope Podcast. where we're dissecting and we're just kind of reviewing all horror movies. We just shot our first one last week on Carrie. So it just anywhere pretty much competing in online movie trivia, and anything talking movies. I love, I'm just glad you guys had me on. I just love talking movies and just love being a nerd. So yeah.
Absolutely. Kees and Irina, where can the good folks find you two lovebirds online?
You are sometimes here on this channel.
Game of Thrones.
Especially recapping Game of Thrones every week. Now that season 8 is back, if you like Game of Thrones, why are you not watching us geek out about it every week?
I have more to say during those.
This is true, especially this Monday. There's a huge episode coming up, the Battle of Winterfell. We cannot wait for it. A lot of characters are going to die. A lot of shit is going to happen. So check that review out because we will have a lot of thoughts on it, I assume. Also, Shmoda reactions right here on Dedicated to Art as well, reacting to Russell's former partner, and also very very soon another guy from the fan leagues, Paul Oyama, taking on Josh McCouga. That'll be interesting next week. Then
That's a funny way to say massacre.
Yeah. Then of course you can just follow me at Dutch Movie Guy on Twitter, Kees Cornelisse on Facebook and Letterboxd, and competing over in these online trivia leagues that Paul and C.H.A.N.C.E came from, like a Full Metal Trivia or a Multiplex Entertainment. Check that out. That's about it.
All right, you guys can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Stardust, and Letterboxd at Skywalker Dohmen. Actually, I'm on Discord at Skywalker Dohmen too, so go find me there and hit me up. You guys will also be able to find this very channel on Twitter and Instagram at D2A Channel. Please like our Facebook page. And stay tuned for next week when, like I said, we are going to be doing full spoilers.
Yes.
Full spoilers on Avengers Endgame. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be epic. And speaking of multiplex, if you guys want to go see me just beat the crap out of poor Adonis Nazario, go check it out over on Multiplex Entertainment. And then if you want to see Kees and I get the crap kicked out of us...
No, don't do that. Don't do that. It's a terrible match.
Please don't do that. Fair enough. But until then, guys, thank you so much for listening, and you know what to do. Take care!
Yeah!